The swearing-in of the Member of Parliament-elect for Ayawaso West Wuogon, LYDIA ALHASSAN, was on Tuesday disrupted temporarily after the minority walked out of the chamber. The opposition National Democratic Congress pulled out of the by-election that got her elected last week after some uniformed personnel stormed a property owned by the party's candidate, Delali Brimpong. The minority MPs on Tuesday said they would not be part of the swearing-in because they do not recognize the new entrant as an MP elected through peaceful and fair means. This was when First Deputy Speaker JoyNews began reading the notice from the Electoral Commission.
May I now invite the Honourable Member-elect to be conducted into the chamber for administration of the oaths.
Cannot be here to witness this swearing.
Deputy Leader.
As the majority in this House, and in the absence of the majority leader, the leader of government business, Mr. Speaker, we would not be perturbed by the absence of the other side. Business will continue as usual.
I,
LYDIA ALHASSAN,
do in the name of Almighty God swear.
Do in the name of God, Almighty God swear.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Ghana as by law established.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Ghana as by law established.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations on your membership of the House.
The minority exiting the chamber walked nearly 2 kilometers to the police headquarters together with Ningo Prampram MP Sam George, who was assaulted by the masked uniform personnel last Thursday during the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election. The MP was at the police CID to write a statement on the incident. Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku joined the walk to the police headquarters.
Behind me are members of parliament on the minority side. They've been marching all the way from Parliament House here in Accra through the Ghana Institute of Journalism Enclave, and they are headed to where the police headquarters is located. Well, they indicate that their colleague, Samuel George, who was allegedly assaulted, has been invited by the police in order to give his testimony on what happened during the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election. And the purpose of this march in black all the way to the police headquarters is to solidarize with him and additionally to escort him as he goes to provide evidence to the police on that particular assault incident.
I was invited by the CID. I went with my colleagues and the legal team from the minority. We engaged with the police, and we'll be continuing to support the police in their investigation. Hopefully we see some concrete action taken very soon, failure of which next week Tuesday we'll be back here.
Okay, so you gave a statement, they interrogated you just to get a sense what exactly happened in that meeting?
We are working and collaborating with the police in their investigations.
Okay. You met the CID boss herself, or who exactly?
We met the Deputy Director General of CID. He led the team from the CID.
We reiterated to them the security situation, our concern that 5 days down the line, nobody has been arrested and all that. And he stated that they met the Committee on Defense and Interior, and they made virtual same demands of them. And they are assuring us that they will not treat this like all the others. They will give it all the seriousness that it deserves, and they are assuring us that it will also be swift. So we told them that we do not want a situation where the thing delays and then it becomes a matter for other actions that may not augur well for all of us.
What timeline are you giving them based on which you can expect further action from you?
Well, we have given ourselves that next week Tuesday, if we don't hear any other thing, concrete steps being taken, obviously we'll go back there.
That look, if the president does not know, he should simply call Mr. Brian Champon and say that you have made a public admission that you sent the boys there. Go and bring the boys. Very simple.
Should Brian Champon...
Look, the MPP is sitting on the government is sitting on the truth and looking for it. They know. These boys were there. Look, the police were standing by when these hoodlums were raining riots and doing what they were doing. It was clear. So who says that they can identify that they don't know them? When a minister of state has said, I sent them there. So just ask him to bring the boys.
We will give them leads. We have pictures of the people who did the violence. We have videos. In fact, some George has even identified the person who slapped him. And so we'll make all
by name, and probably by the unit he works with.
Yeah, he's mentioned the name, but he'll capture it in the report.
Okay.
So this very walkout by the minority will be about walkouts that happened during this parliament. Right, we will bring you that in a bit. We're taking a break. We'll be back in a bit. Welcome back to Joy News Prime, and we return to our story on the swearing in of the Member of Parliament elect for Ayawaso, West Wogon, when the minority was temporarily disrupted because the minority walked out. Let's take a look back at some of the walkouts that the minority has staged since this parliament. So the minority staged a walkout from the chamber to avoid deliberations with a special committee tasked to investigate the cash for seats allegation. That was on February 6, 2018. And minority MPs also walked out of the Speaker's refusal to recognize their leaders. That was on March 7, 2018. And then again, the minority in Parliament walked out from Parliament over the Ghana-US Defense Cooperation Agreement before the House for consideration. That was on March 23, 2018. And then in November 16, the NDC MPs also walked out during the adoption of the constitutional instrument for the creation of 6 new regions. They protested Speaker Michael Quay's refusal to recognize some members from their side. And there are a few more. I think there was one more, I believe one more. And the minority in Parliament indeed staged a walkout during deliberations of the controversial $510 million AmeriPower deal. The walkout followed concerns raised by the minority MPs that they were being gagged and prevented from making contributions on the floor. And that was on August 1, 2017. Now, in other news, in fact, to our main story this evening, 245 buses imported by government in 2016 to boost the public transport system are currently grounded. This was after more than 740 million cedis had been spent on the buses and accompanying infrastructure for the bus rapid transit system. Now, Joy News investigations show the BRT system has ground to a halt because it has accumulated excessive losses. In the second of our investigative series titled Grounded Wheels, Manasseh Azure Awuni reveals that government deviated from the implementation plan of the project, which was designed with support from the World Bank.
In 2007, the government of Ghana, acting on the World Bank report, initiated the Urban Transport Project to build a more decent public transport system in the urban centers. Samson Jamra has been part of the project since 2008.
The objectives of the project was to improve mobility in areas of the participating MMDAs. Then the participating MMDAs were in Gama and then in Kumasi and Ejiso. And then again, it was also to shift into more environmentally sustainable transport modes and lower transport-related greenhouse gases emissions along the pilot BRT corridor in Accra. The then pilot BRT corridor was the Kaswa through Kanishi to the CBD corridor. Once we started with the implementation, the pilot was shifted from the Kaswa to CBD, to AMHASSAN through Achimota to Kwame Nkrumah Circle to CBD. This was because it was easier to implement the infrastructure on the new corridor than the originally chosen corridor.
A private legal practitioner and transportation consultant, David Ofosudote, says the need for an urban transport system came earlier than the 2005 report, which started a current transport project.
I actually worked on a World Bank assignment which looked at poverty worldwide. And Ghana was one of the case countries for poverty. And we worked under a team leader called Professor Nambia. And I led the team on mobility needs of the poor. So what we looked at was how do poor people move around. And among other things, we looked at walking paths around Accra, bicycle paths, people who use all kinds of travel to work. So people who, for example, sit in their buckets of vehicles, they load them like sardines, for want of a better word, to go to work. And all those issues, and then we traced where they originate to where they end. So you will notice that if you take about the fact that at that time about 63% of all trips to the Central Business District were emanating from the periphery. And of this, a huge percentage of people, of about 50 to 60%, were classified as poor. In other words, they fell below a specified poverty line in Ghana. So these things originated from some of these studies way back in the early 90s. I think we ended that study in 95 or so, if I recall. And the idea was to look at how do you help the poor increase their mobility to be able to access the socioeconomic development activities, which included, for example, developing bicycle paths. So if you look at from Nima all the way to Accra, to Accra Central, there's a 50-kilometer network of bicycle paths there, which people don't see because people park on their bicycle paths. So it was one of the interventions.
In 2016, President John Mahama commissioned the urban transport system, a compromised form of the bus rapid transit. The legal entity created to manage what became known as the Ayalolo bus system is the Greater Accra Passenger Transport Executive, GBANE, headed by Samson Jamra.
The project was broken down into 5 components. Component 1 was the institutional development component. That was $14.5 million was allocated to that component. Component 2 is a traffic engineering, management and safety component, which had $31 million allocated to it. Component 3 was the bus rapid transit system, which had $46 million allocated to it. Then we have a component 4 that talks about integration of land development and transport planning, having an allocation of $2 million. And then we have the project outcome and monitoring being allocated $1.5 billion.
68 buses were deployed to run the Tudu-Ofanko route. However, after nearly 2 years of operation, the system ran into challenges.
We started services in December 2016, and in December 2016 we had deployed only 25 of the buses. At that point in time, we were carrying on a daily basis 3,000 passengers. But we grew the business up until somewhere towards the third and final quarter of 2017, where we were carrying at least 11,000 passengers on a daily basis on the corridor. However, this declined consistently from that until currently we are doing close to 4,000, 5,000 passengers on a daily basis, which is exacerbating the cash flow challenges that we currently have. Okay. Now, this situation arose simply because at the peak of our performance, we had access to our dedicated facilities because we had rigorous enforcement in place. But somehow the enforcement was reduced, and getting back onto the corridor in terms of ensuring that people obey the rules of the road space has been a big challenge. If you use the corridor currently, you realize that the informal operations does not even allow us access to our stops, etc., and to our dedicated lanes, all leading to the fact that our journey times are far higher than what we had anticipated.
The government imported a total of 245 buses for the Ayalolo project. Some of these buses have not moved since they came into the country in 2016. Those which were used for the pilot project have also been grounded.
The design of the AMHASSAN corridor required the use of 85 buses for the pilot.
Each of the Marco Polo low-entry city buses cost $251,600, making a total of $61,642,000 US. Together with the cost of developing the infrastructure, the project has cost Ghana more than $151 million US, or 742 million Ghana cedis. Out of this, only $7 million is a grant from the Global Environmental Fund. The rest are loans. The World Bank financed the infrastructural components of the project from 2008 to 2015. When Joy News wrote to the bank for comments, the World Bank said it rated the implementation of the project as unsatisfactory. In an email to Joy News, the World Bank said,
in the post-completion assessment of the project, the bank rated the implementation performance unsatisfactory. The procurement of the buses by the government represented a deviation from the original plan of establishing a limited competitive regime for public transport operations along major routes. The project envisaged that the private sector operators would be responsible for providing the specified quality of buses for operations alongside designated routes based on the route license issued by the regulator. Government intervention of purchasing buses meant that the element of private sector initiative and investment in passenger transport in the bid to improve mobility is lost.
David Ofosudote tells Joy News there are enough lessons in the past that make government involvement in buying the buses problematic.
We had the Omnibus Service Authority under the Omnibus Licensing Decree of 74, under which the district assemblies or the then local government entities were to have cordoned areas to operate these omnibus services. It didn't quite work. City Express was introduced, omnibus services was introduced. In fact, omnibus came before City Express, then MMT, then we have the Ayalolo and all the rest. So these are all interventions. But the lessons of the past should have told everybody that the proper way to intervene in this is to introduce some commercial element in it, and then you regulate the fare prices in such a way that the poor can afford, and you license the routes which they use so that they are restricted to those routes where you know that these routes link to the mobility, accessibility of socioeconomic activities by the poor.
The World Bank says the business case that emerged assessed 80 buses as the initial requirement. However, the government bought 245, more than 3 times the number. The Ayalolo in its operation of the 68 buses has accumulated a debt of 12 million Ghana cedis. Now, it needs an amount of 20 million cedis to begin operations. But there's still a hurdle to scale, even if it gets the money. Our investigation revealed that interferences from politicians and government officials is the reason Ayalolo could not deal with trotro drivers who parked and loaded at dedicated Ayalolo bus lanes and bus stops. Until a solution is found, the buses will continue to waste away, and Ghana will continue to pay the loans with interest. For Joy News, Manasseh Azure Arena reporting.
Right, so let's recap this entire episode that's put together by Manasseh Azure Winnie on the grounded wheels. So the core of the story is that one Marco Polo low-entry city bus cost $251,600. Now, 245 buses will come to $61,642,000. Now, building of infrastructure for the bus rapid transit system project cost $151 million, which translates to 740 million cedis. Apart from the $7 million grant for the project, the rest are loans, which means we have to pay back. With all the buses grounded, it means the taxpayer is losing. There will be more on the story of the grounded wheels, so stay tuned to all our platforms, radio, online, as well as social media for details of that. But let's move on to one other statement coming in from the police, and it's in connection with our very first story, which has to do with the minority walking out of Parliament. So we have the statement coming from the police, says after a shooting incident at ALHASSAN, West Wuogon constituency. So the Inspector General of Police has expanded the committee tasked to investigate the ALHASSAN West constituency by-election shooting incident to cover the professional as well as criminal conduct of those involved in the incident. The investigative committee is headed by the Deputy Director General, CID ACP, Mr. JoyNews. Other members are from the Police Professional Standards Bureau, Police Legal and Prosecution Directorate, Police Operations, as well as detectives from the Police Crime Scene Unit and Airport Division. Meanwhile, statements have been taken from 16 victims of the shooting incident. However, a statement form has been issued to Sam George, MP for Ningo Pram Pram, to submit him for necessary action. Videos, footages connected to the incident are being critically examined to aid investigations. The police administration wishes to assure that it is taking note of concerns raised by members of the public, parliamentarians, statesmen, and reputable organizations, among others, and that thorough investigations will be conducted in line with the ongoing transformation agenda of the police service aimed at ensuring the highest professional standards in the Ghana Police Service. Anybody with information on the incident should call 024 462 3866 or 024 281 4863 or the police emergency toll-free numbers 191 or network and 1-855-555 MTN and Vodafone. Information can also be sent to an email address that you've shared over there. So this is signed by David Eklu, who's Assistant Commissioner of Police, Director General Public Affairs. But it's important to put this into context. So there was an incident at the La Bawaleshi Park last Thursday during the ALHASSAN West Wuogon constituency by-election, and we have seen video footage of the MP for Ningo Pram Pram, Sam George, being assaulted. Now, the president has spoken, he's calling for thorough investigations into it, but there's been a lot of pressure for this to be investigated. But right there at the scene on the day, we had the Director of Police Operations, Alex Spencer, DCOP Alex Spencer, saying that the men who conducted or were engaged in the assault were not under his command, and he is a head of operations for the Ghana Police Service. So it is interesting how the police intends to go about this if the people who are involved are not police officers. But we will follow this case and share with you the details as they become available. We're taking a break here on JoyNewsPrime. We have business news coming up, but still ahead in the bulletin, the Supreme Court has dismissed as unmeritorious the case challenging the removal of Charlotte Osei as Electoral Commission chairperson.
The chairperson of the Electoral Commission, who is the head of that entity, ought to really act according to the laws of Ghana. And as the Supreme Court has observed, performance of procurement duties really constitutes part of the core functions of the Electoral Commission. So even going by the plaintiff's own argument, clearly there was no cause of action at all. And I think the court was very much justified in dismissing it.
And government is hinting some top officials could face prosecution in the BOST fuel contamination saga.
Financial issues in BOST were very serious, including transactions that are being investigated today for possible prosecution.
All right, but business news is next with Sandra Athenu, and we have government mounting, saying that it's going to mount a stringent surveillance regime to check illicit sale of fuel. The Supreme Court has dismissed as unmeritorious the case brought by veteran journalist Abdul Malik Kweku Basko, challenging the removal of Charlotte Osei as EC chairperson. The 7-member panel, presided over by Justice Julius Ansa, concluded that the case by the plaintiffs raises no issues for constitutional interpretation or enforcement, hence failing to invoke its jurisdiction. Mr. Kweku Basko, who was represented by something LYDIA Yenini, had argued that the grounds for the removal of the EC chairperson had nothing to do with her core functions. The court, however, held the opinion that the ground for stated misbehavior is not limited to the duties of the EC chairperson, but her public behavior. Mr. Kweku Basko said though he disagrees with the court's decision, he accepts the verdict. Deputy Attorney General Godfrey Dame addressed the media.
As I indicated, the performance of procurement duties is part of the core duties of the Electoral Commissioner. Indeed, Article 45 plus paragraph F of the Constitution, simply the Electoral Commissioner shall perform such functions as may be prescribed by law. The Procurement Act is one of such laws of Ghana. And therefore he or she necessarily required to uphold those provisions. And therefore, when he or she falls foul of the provisions of the Act, clearly is a very serious matter which should ground an application for release or hair removal from office, as the case may be. And it is very important to note that the Procurement Act itself stipulates that a breach of any of the provisions of the Act constitutes an offence. The punishment for such a breach is imprisonment of up to 5 years in prison. So how can one reasonably contend that an act which is done, which can land a person in jail, is not good enough to ground a removal from office of that person? I think that the Electoral Commission is a very important institution of state, and the functions imposed on it by the Constitution are also very onerous and has far-reaching implications for all of us as a system. And therefore, the Electoral Commissioner, who is the head, or the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, who is the head of that entity, ought to really act in accord with the laws of Ghana. And as the Supreme Court has observed, performance of procurement duties really constitutes much of the core functions of the Electoral Commission. So even going by the plaintiff's own argument, clearly there was no cause of action at all. And I think the court was very much justified in dismissing the suit today.
The Supreme Court has struck out Special Prosecutor Martin AMIDU as a defendant in the case challenging his eligibility for the position. According to the court, Mr. AMIDU was not a proper party to the case, as the position in question is one which falls under Article 88 of the Constitution. Such persons, the Supreme Court says, are to be represented by the Attorney General when sued as a result of their office. The court also ordered the AG and lawyers for the plaintiff in the case to file a joint memorandum of issues for adjudication within 14 days. Former Deputy Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine in his suit said Mr. AMIDU at age 66 is beyond the statutory age of employment into public service. Dr. Dominic Ayine spoke to newsmen after the ruling.
Joined Martin AMIDU because we noted that he was integral to the processes leading to the institution of the action. The reason is simply because he was the one who was nominated, and we were challenging his eligibility. The fact that he was nominated and vetted by Parliament and appointed by the President is at the heart of this action that we took. And therefore, I wanted to, let me give one example. For instance, if the President had nominated someone of, say, 57 years of age, there would have been no constitutional issue. And our focus is on the age of Martin Alamisi AMIDU. And therefore, we thought that he was a necessary party to the action. But if the court says that he's not a necessary party, that is fine. It does not in any way affect the substance of the action that we have brought. At the end of the day, if the court declares his appointment as null and void and of no effect, that will be it. So for us, it doesn't in any way affect the materiality of the action that we have brought to court.
There were issues of agreement on memorandum of issues, which it looks like your team, representatives, and the Attorney General put in the pitch. And what's actually the problem? Why can't you agree on issues which has to do with constitutional matters?
Well, we complied with the rules of the court. As the Deputy Attorney General pointed out, the rule is that the parties, may file joint memorandum of issues before the court. And where they fail to agree on the issues, then they can file separate issues. And we took the step of writing to the Attorney General, and when I say we, I mean my team, the legal team took the step of writing to the Attorney General and inviting the Attorney General to take a look at the proposed issues, and then also to propose issues that can be jointly filed before the court.
Now, Deputy Minister of Energy in charge of Petroleum, Mohammed Amin Adam, says top officials of BOST found complicit in the sale of contaminated fuel in 2017 could soon face prosecution. He revealed this in response to a question on the outcome of the committee set up to investigate the issue at the Meet the Press series on Tuesday. Chief Executive Officer of the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company, George Mensah Oakley, says his outfit has begun implementing recommendations of the committee that investigated the fuel contamination saga. Responding to questions on the work of the committee, At the Meet Press series, Mr. Oakley said the 5 million litres of contaminated fuel in question has been moved to the Tema Oil Refinery to be refined, even as investigations into the saga continue. There's more in the following report.
In June 2017, BOST was widely criticized for selling 5 million litres of contaminated fuel to two unlicensed companies, Movimpina and Zoop Oil. The Africa Center for Energy Policy at the time said the transaction cost the country 7 million cedis in revenue. Government then set up a committee to investigate the issue. At the Meet the Press series Tuesday, CEO of BOST, George Oakley, said the contaminated fuel has since been moved to TOR.
Based on the investigation done by senior committee on the off-spec reports, currently we are going to send the off-spec product to TOR. We have paid the refined charges and the product will be moved to TOR. The off-spec product was not sold to the market as it was reported when it was happening.
Meanwhile, investigations into the saga are ongoing. Deputy Energy Minister for Petroleum Amin Adam hints of the prosecution of some top officials.
The financial issues in BOST were very serious, including transactions that are being investigated today for possible prosecution. And so I will not give details on that. But some of the transactions were done between BOST and TOR. You remember that we had one managing director for BOST and TOR at the same time. And it was during that time such questionable transactions took place.
On the takeover of power distribution company, the Electricity Company of Ghana, by a private concessionaire, Deputy Minister in charge of Power, Kweku Basko, says the move may tarry due to some challenges.
We have had some issues with some guarantees that was expected of the concessionaire, and that has not been ready. It's not ready. I cannot blame the concessionaire alone. We have had some delays also in the tariff setting by the PURC. That has also gone some way to not helping the concessionaire in providing the guarantees.
Meanwhile, the managing director of ECG, Engineer Boachi Apia, says the takeover by the concessionaire should not necessarily result in an increase in tariffs.
Just want to clarify that under the transaction agreement, the concessionaire is not taking on any liabilities. So, from that perspective, we do not expect that there will be tariff increase or decrease because concessionaire is taking on any liabilities. Let us wait for PURC to make the determination.
Ernest Minu for Joy News.
Now, the media fight against illegal mining appears to be a wild goose chase as official complicity and collusion by security personnel becomes more pronounced. A man who was arrested for unlawful operations at the Ankwaso in the Western region was let go after paying 40,000 Ghana cedis bribe to the Inter-Ministerial Task Force. Evans Kwaful is also said to be the NPP General Secretary John Boadu's driver. Labour firm's Erastus Asarodonko, who has been travelling with the task force, reports it is a disincentive to embark on such missions.
While the Lands Ministry wages war against illegal chainsaw operators, illegal miners are felling and wasting hundreds of trees with impunity. They have invaded the Ankwaso Forest Reserve, claiming to have permit from the Forestry Commission. High-value tree species buried in the ground to go waste in a frantic search for gold at the site where the task force arrested 4 Chinese nationals. Mining is undertaken under the protection of these 2 policemen and some armed military men who fled the scene on seeing members of the task force. Driver of NPP General Secretary John Boadu is said to own the concession for which he claims to have permit from the Forestry Commission. after what appeared to be the arrest of owner of the concession, Evans Kwafol. He brought an amount of 40,000 cedis to the Ankwaso police station, apparently to bribe the task force.
He's trying to bribe us, so he's part of the SB, and he's the site owner. So he will write the statement and put all in it.
Boss, carry it there.
This is your money.
He was set free after an hour and the money placed in one of the task force vehicles. Despite earlier suggestion, the money had been handed over to the police as exhibit. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
A brother to two of the miners who died in the recent mine accident at Mane in the Talented district of the Upper East region is calling on government to ban all mining activities in the area until a permanent solution to the frequent mining accidents is found. John Yarrow lost two of his younger brothers 2 weeks ago after a mine explosion killed 17 miners at GBANE. Addressing a news conference at Bolgatanga, Mr. Yarrow said he fears that a more serious disaster could occur if government does not put strict measures in place this time round. JoyNews Upper East Regional Correspondent Albert Sori has more.
It's been 2 weeks since 17 miners died at GBANE in the Talented district of the Upper East region in a mine accident that is still being investigated by the Minerals Commission of Ghana. But today, one of the family members of some of the miners who perished in that accident called a press conference. One, because he wants to address issues concerning two of his brothers who perished in that accident, and also because he is an opinion leader in the area.
The people, especially my brothers, they died through the works of Kwesi Bantama's pit because they were working for Kwesi Bantama. They were not working for Shanzi. They worked for Kwesi Bantama. So I know if people die in Shanzi, we will fight. If people die in legal miners or miners pit, we will fight them. Because if I need an employment and Shanzi gives me employment and then I die there, Shanzi must pay. If I need employment and Kwesi Bantama gives me employment and I go there die, he must pay.
Now, John Yarrow thinks that government needs to really look at what exactly is causing these accidents, because Shangji Mining is not the only mining company working in the area.
We have pits around the Shanzi mining area. I mentioned Shongtaba, I mentioned Unique Mining, I mentioned what they call Mayanka and others. These are all pits that are hollow and that are even used as vent to the Yinya and Pubo Taba, which we talk about Shanzi. I just don't want to hear Shanzi at all, because to me from day one, Shanzi are not miners. So if they are providing what they call services to people and that they have gone that far, the authorities that be, that's why I told you that I'm just not happy about the act of authorities, especially Mineral Commission, working in correcting the right thing there.
Now moving forward, John Yarrow has some suggestions for the government in order to find a lasting solution to this problem.
We applaud the Mineral Commission for stopping Shanzi from working. All the small-scale miners around and those who call themselves pit owners, and those ones can also be claimed as illegal miners, should all stop work by the guide of the security of the area, so that no exercise should be done around the disaster-prone area.
The mining pit through which the miners are said to have passed through to go underground is owned by one Kwesi Apia, also known as Bantama. But what we know is that police have invited him to assist in investigations, and the Minerals Commission has also been inviting the families to ask some questions and to get their inputs as part of the investigations they are doing. Reporting for Joy News, my name is Albert Sori.
A 29-year-old student of Wa Polytechnic has been arrested by the police for impersonation. Peter Sunta Winslow was caught dressed in a police uniform at Paguri upon a tip-off. He has been arraigned before the Wa Circuit Court, remanded into police custody, and he is to reappear on Tuesday, February 5. Joy News Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
According to the Deputy Upper West Regional Commander of the Ghana Police Service, ACP Peter Ndekuru Anambuguri, the police acted on a tip-off and got a 29-year-old Wa Polytechnic second-year student arrested. Peter Winslows, a purchasing and supply student of the Polytechnic, couldn't answer a single question in the midst of the alleged commercial sex workers when confronted by the police.
At about 8:30 a.m., the police spotted the accused person who was in the police uniform, without name tag, no lanyard, no beret, at the Maziswa drinking spot with a group of women suspected to be commercial sex workers. The accused person was confronted by the police, who suspected him to be an imposter. He was then questioned as to why he was incomplete in uniform. In the course of questioning him, the accused person quickly took to his heels. He was pursued by the officers and had him arrested. The accused person admitted having deceived the officers and also stated that the said uniform was given to him by Wa Regional Police Band for rehearsals toward the 6th March 2017. That after the anniversary, he was not able to return it to the police, but investigation has proved otherwise. This assertion it was false. After investigation, he was charged and put before court.
Peter Winslows was quickly arraigned before the court and remanded to appear on Tuesday, February 5. ACP Peter Ndekuru Anambuguri praised the public for coming forth with information which led to the arrest of the notorious fugitive Hussein Sonkare last week. He would want the public to act same on other criminal issues.
Police-led intelligence, it is the public who must assist the police. I am trying to appeal to the general public of this region. If they really want the peace they want to enjoy, they should assist the police with all the information that we deserve so that we can get rid of the criminals. But if they keep the information to themselves and they don't want to assist us, the arrest of this Husseini, this notorious Husseini, is by the assistance of some other good citizens of this region. And so if they are crying, who are the criminals? They must assist us to assist them to live without fear or favor.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
That's it for the bulletin. My name is Azulai. Thank you very much. You have a good night.
This is Joy News Prime.